Hello everyone, it's S-Link. Welcome back to Coding Session episode, I believe it's 5. I lost count. But I do remember last time we covered for loops in C# language, which pretty much most languages it's structured the same way. Now we're going on to while loops, and we'll be using Java for this one. This is tutorialpoints.com. It's an basic online Java compiler based off the JDK 1.8.0. And let's just get started. So what is a while loop? Now if you watched the previous video of what a for loop is, it's kind of the same thing, except writing it is a little bit more simplified. I'm going to create a Boolean variable called finished, and I'll set to false. Boolean, and I believe way back when coding session originally was going on, I covered different data types, but Boolean variable just holds a true or false value. Int value is equal to 0, while finished is equal to false. System.out.println, and system.println in Java just writes an output to the console. We're going to write the current value of value. Let me change that because that's just going to be a tongue twister. The current value of I plus plus if I is greater than 10, finished is equal to true. So what is happening here? It's kind of similar. Like I said, for and while loops are pretty damn similar, except while loop is just a little bit more simpler to code. So while a certain variable we're checking is equal to this set condition, or is less than this condition, or is not this condition, or is greater than this condition, whatever it is, whatever data type it is, whatever object type it is, in this case it's a Boolean, which holds a true or false value. If this variable is equal to false, that condition is true. So whatever variable or object we're checking and its condition of whatever condition we're checking is true, this code block will execute multiple times as long as this condition is true. Finished equal to false. Now you don't necessarily have to check for a Boolean. You can check for if a value of I is equal to certain something, if it's less than something, if it's greater than something. You get the point. It's a conditional. Except this is an actual loop. This is the condition we're checking, which is finished is equal to false. If this condition is true, it's going to endlessly, or not endlessly, but continuously execute this code block, which prints the current value of I, increments the value of I by 1, and if I eventually is greater than 10, finish is equal to true, and then this loop ends. As we see, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Now, what happens if I didn't change this condition? And now, this is what we call an endless loop. This is a bug in a code. This can also happen in a for loop. You can also have an endless loop. The code execution will just never stop, and then, well, your code's just going to go bizarre, and you have to force stop it. I don't think there's a way of force stopping this. I don't know why they didn't add that option. My code should still be there. Did my internet just knock out a big bolt of lightning just came by? Uh-oh. This ain't good. There we go. So we need to somehow in our while loop go ahead and change the variable or the object, whatever value of whatever variable object we're checking. We need to change it in order to stop the loop eventually. So if I is greater than 10, I should have copied and pasted that. Finished is equal to true. Now there is a variant of the while loop which is called a do while. Now this is a little bit more confusing, so please bear with me. What we're gonna do is pretty much cut that, put a semicolon right there, and this is a do while. What a do while is useful for is executing the code block that we're going to run within the loop initially before actually running the loop part. Why is this useful? Well, whatever condition we're checking, which is finish is equal to true, if the initial or the first run of that code block changes that condition, and now this condition is false, meaning finish is equal to false, but finish is equal to true, so this condition we're checking is false. That first execution of the code block, if it changes the condition, there's no need to run the looped portion, or no need to run the loop at all. That's why the do while is useful. So this is going to be the same output. Now this isn't useful, so let's actually, what I just said, let's put it into practice. Greater than or equal to 1. Now this part executed once, but not within a loop. It did not loop at all. Now you're probably saying, well, what the hell? What's a do while for? Like, you could just put a while and still do the same thing. Yes, but this is kind of, if I can remember correctly, this is how I was taught of why a do while does exist. I believe it's available in other languages as well, not just in Java. But this is why a do while exists, so you don't have to go ahead and run the looped portion if the condition we are checking for the loop execution changes in any sort of way on the initial code execution, on the initial code block execution. So that's what a do while is for. It's just a variant of the while loop. You can choose to use it. It may be useful at times, or you can just go ahead and just use the standard old while loop, which is what we have right here. So for loops and while loops very similar, except while loops is a little bit more easier to write. For loops is mainly for executing a code block within a loop, within a loop in code for a certain amount of times. For in I is equal to 0, I is less than 10, I plus plus, it's going to execute the loop 10 times, which is a while loop. A while loop, you're only checking only for one condition, and if that condition is true, it's going to continuously execute that loop, that code block within the loop. While for loop, you're pretty much telling the computer to execute this code block a certain amount of times. So that's the difference between a for and while loop. Very similar, except for loop, you're telling the computer how many times you really want to execute this code. While loop, as long as this condition is true, continue executing this code. So thank you guys for watching this episode of Coding Session. Hope I gave you some of the basic fundamentals of a while loop and its variant do while, and just a comparison, very similar comparison. I mean, it is a comparison. They're very similar. While and for, they're just have one slight difference, but very similar. So thank you guys for watching. Hope I helped you guys a bit, and stay tuned for the next episode. Peace.